But sometimes that happens, right? Like it's like you have to listen to the audience to go, why are they laughing? Yeah, and yeah, just that the like there. It took me about like I would say 10, maybe 15 years before I was like, oh, you know what? I can't worry about the back of the room. Like I had to take that out completely.
Yeah.
That took me a long time, probably shorter for other people, but for me, it was a long time. I was like, oh, nobody cares what I'm doing on stage. I just got to do my shit.
It's Johnny Late Night! And now here's your host, Johnny Rogers! Welcome back, everyone, to episode number 44 of the Johnny Rogers Show. My guest today is a Juno-nominated stand-up comedian who skillfully balances playful irony and morbid silliness. He's known for his really quick wit and stream-of-consciousness comedic style. He's been featured in Montreal and Toronto's Just for Laughs festivals, and he's also the host of the Uncolonized podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for my friend and yours, Gavin Stephens.
Let me hit record here, just so I don't forget. I was gonna say that's literally like what I was just talking about, how like I don't ever change the way that I set up this podcast, yet for some reason every other week there's a different technical issue, and I'm like, what, like you just have to figure it out as you go. You're like,
what's your equipment? It's your computer, right?
Yeah, it's very basic though. It's like I have the AirPods so that I can hear you. I have a webcam set up, and I have this lavalier mic plugged into my computer. I don't ever change, like I don't try to use the mic on the headphones. I don't fuck with any of that. But for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know. AirPods Pro, I find I have trouble with it with like audio, like voice. And so like I was just listening to you, came up robot. But yeah, that's weird that every week something happens.
Yeah, I have that issue now too when I'm trying to use this is such first world problems, but I'm trying to use my AirPods to like talk to somebody on the phone, and they're like, you sound like you're in a tunnel right now.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, that's what I get. I like you're muffled.
Yeah. Or they don't hear me. They don't hear me at all, but I can just hear them talking to themselves.
What's the point?
Yeah, I'm like, I swear Apple, I mean, they've admitted to this before with like their iPhones and stuff, but I swear that they do put like an expiration date on all of their technology.
So everything just falls apart?
Yeah, so that there's a time where it just like, once it hits that time, it just switches and then stops working.
Jeez. Well, I mean, yeah, you're right. They had that lawsuit with old iPhones. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's possible.
Yeah, it is possible. It is. I mean, yeah, Google's because I signed up for a legacy. Like I can hear hang on a second. Let me turn off this Google Home. So I signed up for like a legacy in 2012, what's it called? Like it's like a business account with Google where you get all like you can get a Gmail but use a private email, like your own email. And so just recently they announced that like that's going to be done in July, and now you have to start paying for it. So you have this email that you've been using, like the email that I give you is that Google email thing. Yeah.
It's like they hooked you on a professional like drug or something.
Yep. And then for 10 years you had it, and then all of a sudden it's like, no, it's done. Yeah.
Well, going back to Apple, like my girlfriend had that problem with her iPhone. They just, if you didn't pay for a certain amount of storage, they would delete shit off your phone.
Whoa.
And I'm like, she just lost photos. And I was like, that's crazy. Jeez. And I know this happened to several people that I know where they went to go look for an old photo and it's just gone mysteriously.
Holy shit. Yeah, I have it backed up to Google and Apple, but we're talking shit about Apple, but I'm fully in like the walled garden of Apple. Like I'm fully immersed. Yeah. Oh my.
Because it's good. When it works, it's good.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's really, really good. And PC can be really, really shitty. I think everyone just got tired of PCs because they broke down so often.
Yep.
I was getting a laptop like every 6 months.
Yeah, they're cheaper laptops for sure. I mean that in both price and like the quality. And then, there's something about Apple. Everything just works all perfectly. There's no thinking. It's like what a computer's supposed to do, right? Yeah.
I usually do like I'll cut in an intro and everything for you and edit this. I used to do it at the start of the podcast, but it like interrupted the flow so much. Like we'd be in that room before we're about to go on, and then I'm like, all right, I'm gonna start now, and they're like, okay, and you just kind of sit there and watch me awkwardly read out your bio.
Yeah, that's pretty awkward.
Yeah.
That's
It's just not
pretty
natural.
awkward.
It's not
Yeah.
natural. I'm like, I have the video editing capability to just put that in post.
Are you in
We'll
your
be fine.
bedroom? Is this your
This is
office?
office space, so it's like
Okay,
a
okay.
separate. I used to do everything like in the same room, like sleep in the same room, have my
Yeah.
like film set up. But when I moved to Ottawa, I mean, it's Ottawa real estate prices, so you're able
Yeah.
to get 2 bedrooms for what you would get as like a bachelor basement in Toronto.
Yeah, I'm sure it's less too now, like the prices. When did you move?
I moved in October.
Oh, okay, so yeah, okay, so it wasn't that
Yeah.
long ago. Yeah.
Not that long ago, but man, like it's big difference right away.
A lot of people are moving out of Toronto.
It sucked. It sucked to see all my favorite places close.
Yeah.
And with no hope of coming back. So I was like, what's here? Like, I did the thing. I went there. I moved there for comedy.
Yeah.
I got into the scene. Then COVID happened and everything fucking flipped upside down, right?
Yeah, we left. My wife and I left in 2012, I think. And so like going back, you're like nothing. Like Queen Street's completely different.
Yeah.
When we left,
weed
it was
shops.
oh yeah, it used to be. We left when it was turning into like a mall. Like it was just all the good stores were closing and stuff, like all the mom and pop shops. But yeah, it's all weed shops. But that's going to change too, because it's going to be 6 companies taking over all those weed shops.
Yeah, it's the same thing inevitably with any new business. A couple of them start to do it very well, and then they just buy out all the owners. And then
I said that from the
everywhere.
beginning. I would get in arguments on Facebook. Everyone's like, "Oh no, the free market is going to be amazing." I'm like, it's going to be 6, 5.
It's going to be corporate. Like if you live in a capitalist society, it doesn't matter what the business model is. They'll make it capitalist.
Yeah, it's just going to be one group of people owning everything, like everything else. And that's people were arguing with me with it. I'm like, it's inevitable.
But I was talking to E-Zone, who's like from the Be Real podcast, and he was saying that the black market right now is like thriving because some people just are so resistant to like going through the legal process of going into a shop. And so they're trying to find dealers now and getting more. I was like,
that's interesting. So people want the illegal. Yeah.
I think all we really like, I wanted weed to be legalized, but I didn't think of it in this way. I just thought of it as don't send someone to fucking prison for a plant. You know what I mean? Like that's crazy.
Well, I think that's a minority view. Like I think well, maybe it's not a minority view. I find like a lot of pot activists was just like, I want to be able to smoke weed in public, like the ones I knew. But yeah, a lot of it's like decriminalizing. A lot of people, are in prison or has served jail time because of weed, which is ridiculous.
It's the wildest thing that there's people still in prison for like weed charges.
I know. And yeah, apparently there's a lot that haven't been dropped, like, because people have to apply for it or something like that. I was just reading, like a lot of people don't know this, that they have to apply to
I don't think someone who was caught selling weed would necessarily know the legal process to go through to get, you know what I mean? And if they don't have an attorney or somebody that wants to help them do that, it's like they're kind of just stuck there.
Exactly. I also find it weird that like cops are like kind of running, like they're in charge of a lot of this business now. Like a lot of the old chief Fontano from Toronto, he's in charge.
Yeah, that was a big turn.
Yeah. Like it's like, I don't know. They're all assholes.
How that worked out. Yeah.
They're all assholes.
I usually do this and I've done it a few different ways, but sometimes guests want to like talk about a specific topic and kind of like, I don't know, hash that out together. If there's something that's been just because there's some people that come on and they're like, I need to rant about this or whatever. And other conversations we've literally just like hung out and found the topic later, Yeah,
I assumed like I was going by your lead. That's why I'm like, I don't want to take over.
I'm the first podcast to be like, you pick the topic.
I don't. I guess the rant I went on recently, it's not even a rant. It's just how everyone's so invested in the Amber Heard and Thing trial.
Oh my God.
It just people feel like it's their own trial.
I made a joke about it, about how it's so funny how the same scientists during COVID suddenly are legal experts for the like Amber Heard versus China. You're like,
it's true. So many experts. They're just like, yeah, they flipped. So yeah, I'm surprised. Yeah, it just people were like, I saw someone saying how they were triggered and I'm like, it's two millionaires fighting. Who cares?
it's literally, they're gonna get a movie deal contract out of it, and then Netflix will run the story, and they'll get a cut of that too, and they'll pay for all of this.
They'll be fine.
They're both gonna be more famous from this. Like when I looked at the, I don't know if you watched like the actual when they announced the final, what is it, final verdict?
Yeah, no, I didn't watch anything.
There was like over 3 million people watching that one stream. I'm like, that is wild. And the chat was just scrolling, like fucking flying by.
Oh yeah. It's just that's what's gonna be. I find it weird. Like Netflix is like all like murder documentaries, true crime. I find like all that kind of stuff. I mean, I indulge in it, and I'm like, or like when they do like slavery documentaries, I'm like, like who is this for? It's like it's people suffering and you're making money. Like it's just everything's money. I don't know. I didn't mean to take your podcast in that direction.
No. We're gonna call that episode. We're gonna call it suffering.
Well, it's just like it's so much like people make money off of suffering. It's like, well, good for you. Yeah. Trauma. So much trauma.
That's fucking wild. And you know what? Like, I keep thinking about this too, but it's like they're just like when after Columbine. They like put those guys like on the cover of a magazine.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah. So what that did though was it made copycats. It made people, school shooters who were like, oh, cool, I'll get famous if I do this, right? Yep. And so then the media said that they weren't going to ever like kind of publicize the person who did this, and then they just flipped. They just started doing it again recently.
They can't help themselves.
They can't. They're just like, and then all that will do is create more copycats. But the same thing with like suffering in a way too, I think is like somebody will see like I just think about the person who is actually really, really suffering right now, and the little bit of hope in their head is like, maybe one day there'll be a Netflix documentary about me. And then there's not, it's just like a BuzzFeed article. You're like, oh God. Like,
that's all you got. Nothing out of this. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's this thing now, like there's a phenomenon. I think it's done, but where everyone was doing like Jordan Peele kind of movies, but badly. So it's like all these like, black or or slavery kind of like, meta text kind of like satires that were just so horribly done. And you can tell that people didn't watch horror and they just like, oh, this is what you're supposed to do. There seems to be this thing that we're going through. It's like a lot of mediocre entertainment. Maybe I'm wrong. It just feels like a lot of mediocre.
No. It's because the access has never been easier.
Okay.
Like it's somebody can make a whole movie on their phone. You know? And if they have enough money, like I'm gonna make a whole video about this too, because I just like quit my job as a YouTuber, and I was like, I learned a lot as like what like those content farms do, and to like kind of stay ahead. But it's pushing out a lot of really mediocre content, and the only reason why it's mediocre is because it's like crunched for time. Like you're told that like you have to pump out this certain amount of videos within this amount of time, and then even the editing has to get done really quickly. So it's like if you actually spent the time, let's say, researching a certain topic and adding and editing it multiple times and getting someone else to edit it multiple times, you could create like a really good movie or a really good piece of content. But that's not the case for a lot of these places because they just care about like numbers. Just
that makes so much sense.
More videos we get out, more ads we can place in, more money we can make. That's about it.
I mean, that's the industry, but it does feel like the people, or like, I don't want to turn this into like a bitter rant, but it just feels like the type of entertainment that gets ahead are the people who know how to, I don't want to say schmooze, but it feels like get numbers.
No, dude, you're exactly right.
And the product itself seems to be so secondary. So like,
which it never was that way before. Like the thing I love the most, and I'm happy I got to like live during this time period, because I was born in 91, so I'm kind of in the middle of this, like I saw pre what the internet became, and never had a cell phone even in high school, and didn't even get a cell phone I think until college, and it was like a little BlackBerry or something. But like, and then now I'm kind of developing into like what it's become, and looking at the youth now who are born in 2000, let's say, and only know the internet. They're born into it. They grow up with Google readily available. I remember those first Google searches, and you're like, whoa, this is crazy. You know, like I'm going to go to Wikipedia and like scam my whole project for school or whatever.
Yeah, just the idea that you had access to everything, or like just like, whoa, like Wikipedia was a major deal. Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
But I remember like word of mouth celebrities, like people who became famous because they were undeniably good. And even Steve Martin said that too, be so good that they can't ignore you, because that was the way to you know, get a career and do stuff, right? You think like, you really think as an artist, you think like, well, if I'm really, really good, there's no way that I won't get booked. And it's like, no, you might not get booked forever, because like I tweeted this out too before, but I was like, the lack of talent is not what keeps an artist from making it. It's obscurity. It's like not knowing the right people, or not schmoozing enough.
That's right. People. That's right. Which that's you. Yeah, again, you could be mediocre and it's fine. Like mediocrity is fine. It's
as long as you're on time and you always do the job, that talent thing doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't. Maybe that's how it's always been. I don't know, but it feels like it's every day. It feels more and more like that. And I don't want to be like, oh, it's also it's also a good time because you can actually get your stuff out without waiting for some gatekeeper to like tell you to do something. So like, I don't want to be like, oh, it's all gloom and doom, but it does feel like a lot of like, I feel like I don't know. I don't want to shit on CBC. I don't want to
do it. Let's name names, Gavin. I got bridges to burn. The whole place
on fire. It just feels like it's a lot of like, I don't know, mediocrity, and I could be wrong. That's how it feels.
Yeah, I don't know. I just like a lot of stuff feels like it's coming out half baked.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, like it could be great.
I don't think the talent is bad. I think I think a lot of the talent isn't given time, like you said, to get better. And that's really what it is. I don't think it's like, oh, these are shitty people or these are shitty. I just think the talent is not given enough time to like just marinate in it, like you said, like just like figure out what your voice is and figure out what you're doing. And that's what I think.
I mean, like, I think honestly, and I'll say this right here, I've never been offered anything by like CBC or any of these networks, but if it's also set and setting, which sets these people up to fail, right? Because like you just said, they might be rushed with it, or they have to cut certain things out of their act. I think ultimately, like as artists, we also need to learn how to say no. And like, look at the company that's asking you to be part of their big deal, it could even be just for laughs, right? Look at the company and look at like what they've done for artists before, and look at what the response has been for certain artists, and ask yourself, like, do I fit into this mold? And if so, take it, take it 1,000 times over and do it again and again and again. But like, if you don't really feel it, do not do it just because the offer is on the table.
That's true, but like, it's also Canada. There's also like there's also kind of in the back of your head that if I don't take it, I might starve. Do you know what I mean? Like, jobs are far and few between. So I don't blame.
I get it. It's setting. Yeah.
Pardon?
I get if it's like it's circumstantial, right? Like if you're in a position to say no. Say no.
I think we're all in the position to say no. I just think it's like it's hard to say no. It's really hard to be like, no, it's not for me. And it's really hard to like know who you are as a comic or an artist to be like, nah, that's not for me. Those are like really, that's a maturity, I think, that takes time. I don't think I would have done it when I was starting out. I'd probably do it now, but when I was starting out, and I have done it now. People look at me like weird. I'm like, that's not for me. It's not something I won't give you the best product.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I I don't think that I would ever do anything with CBC because I know that I would have to cut certain things out of my act, and I was like, it just would feel weird and forced to me. I would rather like keep doing videos on the internet and build an audience on the internet, and then just go book at clubs in those areas where I've drawn an audience. I don't need to, as long as I'm getting paid whatever it is at the door or whatever the flat fee is, then I'm not going to be starving, right?
I see. That's your generation's different than my generation. So my generation still has that foot in the door of like, well, we have to get on TV.
You want network approval,
yeah. We have to. That's the way. But like listening to you, it's like, yeah, you're right. It's like there's no reason to in this point.
Yeah,
it really isn't.
We need to realize that the ball is back in our court.
Yeah,
they should be coming to us, and we should be negotiating offers. Yeah. Because if not, you could just get signed by some whatever. Say you go viral on TikTok and you get signed by some like influencer agency who also books comedians, and you know what I mean? Like now there's literally like a million pathways you could
get him.
Ezone, for example, I was so impressed by like what he set up for himself. He's not just a comedian. He on his website he has like you can buy candles for fuck's sakes with his logo on it. Ezone.
Oh, okay.
Give him a shout out here. Flavors by Ezone is the website, but it's like I was just like, he's a comic, and he's like a podcast host, but he sells candles and he sells like hats and apparel, and he loves vintage stuff, so he'll go to vintage stores and buy like,
That's really smart.
And just all through Shopify, I'm assuming. Yeah. But like that's what's available for us now. Like we don't really have to take that, however much that gig is.
It's such a different way to look at the world, but it makes sense, right? Like I mean, yourself as a, like there was a time when you were a comic and you're a writer and you do, you know what I mean? Like that's how you define yourself, and like it just makes more sense that you're not defining yourself, and you could see that switch, like really. Like my guess is like you saw it in hip hop first, where people were like everything, like they were musicians, clothing moguls,
producers,
right? And they didn't hide that, they did it all. I guess Gene Simmons,
they took pride in it. I think the first couple like crossovers that I started to see were Jamie Foxx, and like Childish Gambino. Being on like a sketch comedy show, basically, right? Yeah. And then also he puts out like a hip hop album, and he put out a stand-up special, and I was like, what the fuck? I was like, this guy's doing all of it. Yeah, it was just seeing yourself as like, as an industry as opposed to just that one thing. Yeah. We are we each are individually an entertainment business. Yeah, that's right. And that includes like being able to edit your stand-up clip, or like know how all these different platforms work, and like do podcasts to promote your shows that are coming up, and like you're like your own little media company. That's right. I did you come up through Yucks at all, or were you? No, I never got signed to any clubs or anything. I would just keep doing like whatever the Tuesday spots were, the amateur nights, and I kept trying to get like an audition with them, but they were always putting it up like, it'll be this time whenever he's in, and then you never hear or whatever. But they want you being a freelancer. They do want you begging. I didn't want to beg. Yeah, nobody wants to beg anymore, which is like that's how it should be. Yeah. Nobody wants to beg. I don't know if you're good with them. I don't care about Yucks, but so it doesn't matter to me. But yeah, nobody wants to beg, that's the way it should be. Nobody should be begging. Yeah, that's fascinating. That's interesting. I haven't looked at. I always forget to think like that, where it's like, we're more than just a comic, or more than Because there was such that purist way of thinking for so long, where it was like you have to just do stand-up comedy. Yeah. And I remember even like being a young comic and doing a show. I think Rob Pugh was headlining at the time. It was at Alt Dot. Yeah. And he said to me after the show, he's like, "You got to do everything." Yeah. He's like, "Be a fucking hand model. I don't care. Don't do just stand-up comedy." That's right. Gotcha. Yeah, because you can't. You're never gonna make a living just being a stand-up comic.
It's part of it. It's so hard. Like everything's so hard because there's so much, like stand up is hard on its own.
Yeah.
So to do everything else is like, but I mean, this is what you signed up for, right?
Yeah. I mean, like that. And at the end of the day, that goes back to like having at least some integrity with your art, because if you did it knowing that you weren't going to make a lot of money in it, then why would you sacrifice like the integrity of what you are, who you are as an artist for?
That's right.
You know, you're a sellout. You're like, I need this credit so that I can be validated to like everyone, or they can put it on the poster or something, you know. We don't need that anymore.
It's the weirdest thing. The validation is like, that is all that drives most of this stuff. Because when you're like, that's the approach for me that helps a lot, is to go, well, when you have those feelings of jealousy or anger or whatever, envy, you understand like, why do you have that? Because you're just looking for someone to validate you as a comedian or whatever. So it's like, yeah, that our industry is driven on that, of like validating us because we are the product.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's to get past that is important, I think.
I honestly too, like, just think, and I've seen it a lot in the Ottawa community, how like supportive they are amongst each other.
Yeah.
It's so beneficial. And even there was a show that like Hisham and somebody else used to run at
I forgot Hisham's from Ottawa.
Well, in Toronto, he used to run a room where it was like you would do I think like 2-3 minutes of jokes, new jokes, and then they'd tag you, they'd give you tags.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is amazing, you know, because like we're all like collectively working together on each other's stuff. And if you weren't contributing or whatever, you were, you know, asked to leave, because like, why else would you want to be there?
Yeah. Yeah. I find the scenes seem to be more, I mean, there are cliques and stuff, but I don't think it's as much as like purposeful cliques as opposed to people just hanging out with their friends. But I find people tend to be more helpful. Not that they weren't before, but it's huge now. The scenes are huge. And people tend to be like really kind of helping each other out for the most part. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's good. It's kind of a good time to start in stand-up. Although it's also kind of shitty. I guess
that's you take the good with the bad. Better than starting in the 90s, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, right? There was no Ottawa scene. There was no scene. Yeah, there was. I was after the boom. There's no scenes anywhere, right? Like Toronto didn't have a scene. There's nothing. So yeah, it is. But it is harder to, like, I'm like, oh, it must be hard to get going. But like, even thinking from your perspective, it's like, it doesn't matter because you're relying on gatekeepers with that mentality.
Yeah.
Like, and like, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, there's no level that you like have to get to, and there's no level that you have to stop at either. Like, I've seen like, you know, people who started as, let's say, like they did sketches on Vine, and then they found their audience off of that. Like they got millions of people following them. They transferred that over to YouTube. Now they've got, say, even just 1 million people on YouTube, and they're like selling out comedy clubs. They've maybe done comedy for like a year. Yeah. You know, like, but it doesn't matter because those fans, like, let's say someone is like into comedy and they do these comedy sketches. I know someone specifically that did this. I think it was Curtis Connor, for example. Curtis Connor got big on Vine, transferred his audience over to YouTube, huge on YouTube now too. And he's been doing comedy for a while now, but like he had this fame when he came almost like right out of Humber. I think he started to kind of pop off. And I had him on a show in Oshawa, and like a ton of people came out in Oshawa. You know what I mean? Like, of all places, just to see him. And it didn't matter how like perfect the jokes were, or did he use a rule of 3? It didn't matter anything like comedy pure specifically. They were just excited to see their favorite person. You know what I mean? It's a very different approach, like, with comedians. Now that's good and bad, right? Because the bad side to that is like, you need to be therefore critical of your work and not just think you're the shit because people are laughing and clapping. Which happens by going to do other shows where they don't expect you to
they don't know who you are. It's easy to get into a bubble, I would say.
For sure. That's the dangerous thing with like trying to do this method, is you have to stay outside of that bubble a bit.
Yeah. but I mean, also it's probably you have power going through an industry because you can bring an audience, you can bring numbers to people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can tell the club owner, like, I'll sell out all 3 nights. And he goes, okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's yours. You know what I mean? They just want
Yeah.
asses in the seats. They don't care how great the jokes are on stage.
Do you play Absolute now, or?
I've been there once. I'm hoping to go back again. I mean, It was like fun show. So that's all dependent on Jason if he wants to. I haven't auditioned for him yet here. I kind of did their like summer comedy competition in Toronto. And I did fairly well in that one, and he saw me there. I think I made like quarter or semifinal, something like that. But definitely grown as a comic since then.
Yeah. I mean, the Ottawa sounds like I haven't done a lot of shows in Ottawa except for Absolute, because every time you're there all week long. So you don't, I don't get to go out, but it seems like it's a good scene. Like the people in it, and there's
tons of new people too, and they're like really good.
Really?
Like I was like, how long have you been doing it? Damn. Like you already have some like pretty well-formed jokes. Like that's great.
Interesting. How does that happen?
I think it's just the support. I think it's just like the couple of comics that have been doing it like 6-7 years there. They're not, pros, but they've been doing it and failing at it and getting better at it long enough to at least give someone 3 months in, 6 months in a little bit of advice. But I assume it's just either their interest in doing like a lot of sets and like trying to write better jokes. I also, and I said this a long time ago, I think comedians are going to be better faster because they have such a big access to stand-up comedy.
Yep. I've been saying that forever.
They can go listen to a podcast of 2 guys who have been doing it for 40 years and get all of the best advice in like 2 hours.
Like there's the resources
are so lucky.
It's like so much. I was saying that actually, I think last week I'd say it all the time, that comics have gotten better quicker than we did because of access to stuff. Because it's just kind of scary, but it's also good. I mean, yeah.
I remember writing my first joke and being like, okay, like, how do I start this? Like, what? Yep. You would get laughs randomly, and you'd start to figure it. Oh, I guess that is a punchline.
Those are the worst when you don't.
Those are the words that are the punchline. Then
this is how that works. I hate Well, like when you don't know why the first like 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Just not knowing why you're funny, but like you have like after 5 you have an idea, like you kind of know, but it's still like
it's still a rough estimate once you get down to it. Like I've been doing it 10 years now, and it's it's like I just realized with one of my jokes what makes it funny. Like I knew the wording was funny, but I was thinking it was funny for a different reason, and then I really thought about it, and I was like, oh, I get the reference that I wrote. Like, you know what I mean? Like, hey everybody, Johnny here. Just want to take a quick second to thank our newest Patreon subscriber, CLB. I appreciate your support, and because you are subscribed to the show for just $1 a month, you're getting this episode before anyone else. If you want to be cool like CLB, head to patreon.com/TheJohnnyRogers and join in on the fun. All right, now back to the episode.
Well, sometimes that happens, right? Like it's like you have to listen to the audience to go, why are they laughing? Just that it took me about like I would say 10 maybe 15 years before I was like, oh, you know what, I can't worry about the back of the room. Like I had to take that out completely. That took me a long time, probably shorter for other people, but for me it was a long time. I was like, oh, nobody cares what I'm doing on stage, I just gotta do my shit. So
that's honestly why I stopped doing open mics, was because it was giving just bad habits. I was just developing bad habits on stage.
It's so easy to develop bad habits that way. But I mean, it's also, that's what you have to go through. Like, that's just how, right? But it's like, when you start playing to comics, it's where a lot of edgy comics kind of stop. Like you see guys who are edgy and they tend to like, oh, you're shocking comics. You're doing the thing that comics would laugh at and not translating it for like an audience. or strangers.
I was saying that before too. Like I always hated the comics that were like talking about like a bad audition they went on. I'm like, real relatable, man.
I mean, I believe everything can be funny, but it's
But
it's
like
kind of weird.
if you're performing to maybe like a room of actors at
Yeah,
like
probably.
the
You see
film
a lot of
school.
LA sets on like on YouTubers
Like you ever be talking to your booking agent and he calls you about your publicist, and
yeah.
I think this happened too with Tim Allen. He went on stage at the Comedy Store and he was like, "My Porsche's in the shop again." Like, you guys know what that was like. They're like, "No, we don't."
Yeah. I think that's what we're having. There's a problem of like really rich comics not relating to average people now. Like I was watching Joe Rogan talk about like his friend owned, I don't know if you saw this clip, his friend owns some restaurant and they're complaining about like, I guess because they got unemployment, nobody wants to work. And they're like, oh yeah, he can't get his bartender to come in for more than 20 hours. And it's like, people are lazy. It's like, no, do you know what it's like to work in the service industry? You make $100 million to talk to people. You've lost touch with the average person.
Go work a single serving shift and you'll be like, this sucks.
Or Jerry Seinfeld, he was driving a $500,000 car with somebody else and Comedians and Coffee, and they were complaining about how you can't say anything in comedy. Oh, it's Ricky Gervais. They're complaining how you can't say anything in comedy anymore. I was like, what the fuck are you guys talking about?
Because they're on fucking Netflix.
It's just like you have you're rich as shit. You can't say anything anymore. It's terrible.
It's so funny. It'd be so much like that would hit a lot harder if I got that as like an email from a newsletter that I subscribed to his and never. I was like, oh yeah, I haven't heard of Ricky Gervais in a while. I guess they are silencing him. Like Louis C.K. reaches out via email. You know, he doesn't. You don't really see him very much. He's just like, hey, sorry to bother you. I got a comedy special I made. If you wouldn't mind. If not, just unsubscribe. It's totally fine.
It did hit him. It did. But even he's fine. I mean,
yeah, he's fine.
He's fine. Everyone's fine. There's no canceling.
It's such bullshit. It's
all
just
bullshit.
It's just to please the people on the internet to like, oh, we did it. They lost a gig or whatever. Like, or they had to stop doing something for 6 months and then they forget about it and move on to somebody else, you know?
It must be a big audience though to get, because I feel like a lot of guys are like, or a lot of comics are going after that audience. The audience of like,
the like outraged people.
Yes, it must be an easy audience to grab.
It's very low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
It's because of the algorithm though, right? Like if they spend all day complaining about stuff and like looking at things that anger them, the algorithm's like, you spend a lot of time looking at things that suck. We're just going to keep sending you more and pissing you off more and pissing you off more.
Yeah.
And then eventually they come across someone new as like, this guy's making good points.
It's true.
I hate all this stuff also.
Have you been watching Barry? Do you watch that show?
No, what's that?
It's Bill Hader's show on HBO. It's really good.
Oh, I love Bill Hader.
Yeah, he plays a hitman who's taking acting. He wants to be an actor.
That's great.
So it's really good. And his girlfriend in the show has a show that she's putting on some like a Hulu type network. But then like the day it was supposed to air, they cancel it. And they're like, well, the algorithm said it wasn't going to go. It was just like the algorithm made the choice to cancel your show the day it was supposed to air.
The algorithm is just going to become like the next Harvey Weinstein. Like
the algorithm says you need to lie on the couch, take your pants off.
Yeah. The algorithm says you have to suck my dick. I'm sorry. That's just what the algorithm said.
It's not me. Yeah, of course the algorithm is going to be an asshole. It's just going to lean to asshole.
Someone needs to like characterize the algorithm in a cartoon. That would be huge.
Yeah.
Like explaining the internet. Like what's that show that they had on Netflix with like Maya Rudolph and it's all about like it's like sex ed basically.
Oh yeah, I know you're talking. I know.
But like that, you know what I mean? But to explain the internet.
And have the algorithm as like a physical character, like It when I heard about the algorithm canceling, I know it's a joke, but I was just like, you have no say in shit. You have no control. Goddamn algorithm. Do you do TikTok? Do you do that?
Yeah, I just had the funniest thought. I was like, if I were one of those outrage podcasters, that my
Yeah.
next transition would have been, so She-Hulk, what do you think of that? Just because I was like, that's the next thing that people are getting all pissed
Oh
about.
yeah. Well,
Is
I
like,
think right now it's Star Wars, but yeah. Yeah, they were She-Hulk last or 2 weeks ago, and now it's
now they've moved back to
so,
Star Wars because people have been ragging on Star Wars forever now.
yeah. People love to rag on Star Wars. They just it's just the thing to do. It's just people have too much choices, too much like yeah.
Yeah.
They're these things are too accessible. Some things should just be like, you know what, this is what you get. Shut the fuck up. We're done. Some things are just too accessible.
They just need to make it like I think again it goes back to like valuing your art and like having some integrity too. Like if these producers and these writers that are making these shows, they're only coming out the way that they're coming out because they're being told like it needs to be accessible. It needs to be fine viewing for all audiences abroad. It's like, no, you need to take a Tarantino approach at least once in a while and just go crazy and do what you want to do and be like, that's the movie. If you don't like it, don't watch it.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I have a few tattoos. I go to a tattoo artist. I say this is what I want, but I trust their vision, and we come to an agreement that whether I like it or not. But I don't know. You just trust the expert to do the job. Yeah, it's true. Like the last Star Wars movie, the one that was a total mess. That was just fan service. It was garbage. Like it just stop it. You let me write your movie basically.
No.
Like, oh, Chewbacca didn't get a medal in the first movie. We should give him one in the last. Like, really?
Is it a participation award?
Yeah, basically. So, like, you know how did you watch? You've seen this?
No.
Okay, so
I trailed off on Star Wars.
Okay, so
after that first Return movie, I was like,
Yeah, I don't blame you. The first Star Wars, everyone got medal, like A New Hope.
Yeah, I remember that.
So, okay, so the last Star Wars, because Chewbacca didn't get a medal, they decided that like Princess Leia at the end of the movie was gonna she wanted to give you this medal, Chewbacca. But they've been around each other for what, 40 years?
Yeah.
And she never gave him the goddamn medal. This whole stop it, JJ.
He's like, I've been harboring resentment for the last 40 years. I actually planned on killing you tomorrow.
So again, why would you give him that? Just stop it.
He must have threatened her.
Yeah, seriously, this is some bullshit. She dies, and I don't get my
She's
medal?
like shaking as she puts the medal on.
Yeah, I don't know. It's all. You're right. It's an algorithm or a consensus writing where we're all writing this bullshit.
Bullshit.
Oh, this is an old man yells at cloud episode, isn't it?
I realized that too. I'm like, as soon as I said none of the places I like to go to are open anymore, I was like, oh, I'm an old man now.
That's like the oldest man. That's like, man.
I never got that. My dad would drive by places. He's like, that's where the old blah, blah, blah used to be. And I'm like, why is he always saying that? I'm like, because that's how he remembered it, you know? Like, he's mad. He's upset that it's changed into a mall.
Why are they changing things I know? Yeah. It's a gaslight. It's gaslighting, right? Like, you remember the city a certain way, and then the city is like,
Show up, and you're like, there's a booster juice here now? What the fuck?
It never was here. It never, the thing that you thought was there was never there. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I do. But, and also sometimes you're like, oh, wow, that used to be a thing. Now it's this. And the thing to be mad at is condos. That's what everyone's universally mad at.
For real. I just watched this crazy thing, and I never even took this into consideration, but there's this like super tall condo in New York City, and it's on Billionaires Row. Like I think they said 60% of it is empty because a lot of billionaires will just buy these condo units as investments that they'll sell later on. They don't even put furniture or anything into them. But the thing that it's doing is like, aside from raising all of the other real estate, even from the bottom level, like rent goes up because all of this is costing more, it casts a giant shadow across Central Park.
A literal shadow.
A literal shadow. It just blocks sunlight from people's homes, and it's not even being used.
Humans are horrible. Like just horrible.
Fuck?
They're just like horrible. Yeah, I read this book about like real estate in in New York. Well, it's about America. It's about gentrification. It's actually gentrification, and like the design came from a Canadian professor.
Yeah,
but
Jordan Peterson.
No, but yes. So this so they were talking about how like New York used to be like an industrial town where people used to make stuff, and then sometime in the 70s or 80s it all flipped over to real estate. So it's just, that's how they make their money. It's real estate, which is fucking weird, man. Like it's
you're just have to live. Selling like roofs over people's head. Like
it's just it's investments. It's people buying the stuff, renting it out.
Oh,
and then collecting. I know.
You ever look into like BlackRock, any of that
stuff?
All that shit. That shit scares me, dude.
That shit is, well, I mean, it's here. It's in Canada. It's what they're doing.
If anybody doesn't know, it's correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but if anyone doesn't know, it's just this massive like company that is trying to buy up all the real estate everywhere and just rent it back to you for the rest of eternity. And they're actually putting out a lot of campaigns online and through different sources to try to convince people that renting is better than owning. Yeah. I've seen it several times. And you'll even hear people say like, why would I ever want to own a home? I could just rent forever. It's like, that's what they want. Yeah, they don't want you to have your own investment.
Yeah, and it's what's causing like the housing crisis is like, and they're like, we gotta build more houses. We don't have to build more houses. We gotta stop people
lower the rent and do rent control.
Yeah, I just saw a dude. I heard about this guy who had, and this is Canada too. It's weird. They had a $430,000 or $450,000 down payment, and he got outbid.
Damn,
he got outbid, and it's like
insane because
a company can outbid them. Yeah, they have money, they have resources,
and billions of dollars.
Right. It's
and like credit with the bank. You know what I mean?
Well,
like
the banks are involved, right? Like the banks are part of these companies, and again, every podcast I get on, I tend to switch.
We get super serious about the world affairs. People are like, man, I thought these people would be funny.
If I do a podcast, I'm Mr. Downer. Just a downer. Such a downer. Sorry, everyone listening.
No, dude, you're right on par with how every episode has usually gone.
Really?
Yeah. That's just like, I'm just keeping it like the key of the podcast. I remember the podcast I did with Rick Rowley. He was telling me that he had some anxiety because he was flying to a different country. He'd never been out of Canada before. Yeah. And then by the end of it, I asked him, how you feeling about that? He goes, well, after this little therapy session, I was like, therapy session? I was like, I guess. I was like, I guess that's what this is. All right.
Did he feel better? He felt better.
It felt better. We talked it out. I was like, there's nothing to worry about. You're going to have fun. You're going to have a good time.
That's got to be stressful. Was it like recently?
Yeah, it was recently. I think it was maybe a couple months ago, I guess.
Oh, where was he going?
I want to say Puerto Rico.
Yeah, it's probably stressful.
I could be wrong. Brazil. Might be Brazil.
It's a distance. It's like, I gotta go to Halifax.
Country too, where you don't know, where no one speaks, like, it's not, English isn't frequently spoken, Like when I went to Asia,
Halifax, that stresses me out. So
Halifax stresses you out?
Yeah, well, I haven't been on a plane in like how many years?
Hey, at least you get to carry weed with you if you want to go travel in Canada.
Yeah. I mean, you can get weed there.
Yeah, true.
It's like kind of pointless. It's like
you're like, I want my weed.
I can't smoke this Halifax weed. Yeah. Only Hamilton or Toronto weed for me. You can taste the difference.
It's so funny. It's literally all the same company pumping it out.
Yeah, exactly. It's all from the same.
I thought was so funny is like, so the tweed factory where a lot of these like plants are made for being shipped out. Guess what the factory used to be before it?
What?
It was the Hershey chocolate factory.
Of course. Wherever there's evil, Hershey's involved.
Isn't that insane? I remember doing a tour of it for school. We went there on like a school trip and we got to like get Hershey chocolate bars, and it was like this whole thing.
Did they give you the big ones?
Yeah. And they're like, you grow weed in this now? I was like, that's wild.
But it makes sense.
Yeah. It's pretty right on par with their message.
It's right on par. It's like, it's right on. Oh, Hershey chocolate factory tours. That sounds like fun.
Dude, it was a shit. Seeing those giant vats of chocolate?
Yeah.
It was like industrial Willy Wonka.
Yeah, except people would die if you fell in.
Yeah, for sure. You just burn to death and be like drown in chocolate.
You
Not the worst way to go.
Yeah, you end up in the waiting room like with an Oompa Loompa. You die.
He died doing what he loved.
Yeah.
Consuming too much chocolate.
Yeah. Just disgruntled workers have to pull your body out of there.
Yeah.
With a scoop. Then nobody's happy.
Nobody's happy.
This fucking kid every week. Someone jumps in the vat.
Just thinking they're willing, like the Niagara Falls.
Yeah, it's just like
it's that version. It's always somebody.
I went to Catholic school when I was in grade school, and I went to one called St. Henry, and they give us Henry bars on St. Henry's Day.
Hilarious.
That was the biggest deal. Like, yours topped mine because you got the big Hershey bar.
Big Hershey bar. Yeah. Now I wish I could go back there and get a big blunt.
Yeah. They just roll it up. That's what you picture
there
it.
You go,
right?
kids.
Like
yeah.
John, all just
giving you a tour of the factory. I always, I'm gonna start to bring it around a bit here, but I always ask people one question on this podcast is if you can make let me start that again. If you can make a phone call to 15-year-old Gavin, it's a separate timeline, doesn't affect your current timeline.
Okay.
Give him a piece of advice. What would you say?
If I have 50, do better in school, I guess. Do better in school. You can do better in school. Yeah. Or moisturize. Start moisturizing now.
Start moisturizing.
Yeah. It'll save you. Moisturize every day. Start now. You're too ashy. Yeah. One of the two. Do better in school or moisturize more.
I'm sure you get that in the same phone call.
I guess I could. So I'll give him two advices.
Yeah.
Two advice. Yeah, moisturize and do better in school.
That's so funny.
Also invest in some sort of real estate at some point.
Or Bitcoin.
Like in the 80s? No, 90s? Yeah, do it. 15 years old, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say late 80s. Try to invest in some real estate. Yeah.
Get it before BlackRock gets it.
Yeah, seriously.
I also want to give a shout out to Sean Sirianni as well from the Creative Imbalance podcast for giving the shout out, which then led to this podcast.
Oh yeah, that's right. That was a fun podcast.
Yeah, he's great. I loved that. It was so funny when the first time that I did a podcast with him, he was like renting out a little studio space. Yeah. And we were waiting for the other people who were renting before him to finish. And we literally like had a podcast outside of and I was like, I just love when that happens, when you're just immediately like meeting for the first time and you just like click so well.
Yeah.
I'll tell people to go to gavinstevens.ca, follow @CountGavin on Instagram. Check out the Uncolonized podcast as well. All the links at Gavin Stephens on Twitter. And do you still upload into your YouTube page as well?
I haven't done it in so long, but I used to, as you can see in my basement.
Yeah.
I lost that basement, but yeah, that was my old. Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna do videos every week, and then I stopped.
And then you're like, fuck it. I've done that so many times. I'm
sure everyone's done it so many times.
I've had like 6 podcasts.
Do you know Sam Norton?
Yes. I just saw him actually at Absolute.
Okay, so Sam and I have this debate, or I had this debate with him, because he's like, I upload stuff to TikTok, and then if I don't get enough views or I don't get the right views, I take it down. I'm like, no, you got to keep doing it.
Ooh, don't do it. That hurts you.
See, that's what I said.
Yeah. Especially on YouTube. Don't like private or like delete videos unless you absolutely have to. Like there's a copyright issue or something. Yeah. Because it actually will like push down your channel. It's like removing content. So those views just get removed, right? Even if you do it privately, those views get removed. But apparently from what I've heard, it pushes down your channel, and I assume it would do the same thing with TikTok.
I assume mine was more like, well, you that's how you learn to get better, but yours is actually a technical.
I think there might be a technical decline if you do it.
Okay, your argument's even better than mine.
Although I will say Instagram Reels has become a very interesting experiment because Facebook purchased Instagram and they now own that company. They are doing this like bridging platform thing. So if you post an Instagram Reel, it automatically gets shared to Facebook onto just like a random feed.
So people who are on Facebook will start seeing your Instagram videos and even getting directed there.
Interesting. I keep hearing Instagram's dying off too, though.
No, Facebook bought it, so it's going to be like, they're changing it actually so that it will be all video pretty much.
Oh, okay.
So that's why now, if you're a creator out there, I cannot implore you more to start posting Instagram Reels. Try to put some text on it if you're doing like a stand-up bit or a song or something, because that helps all audiences and makes it accessible, and it kind of grabs your attention and keeps you locked in. But yeah, start posting there, because they are just cranking out the views to making it as an incentive almost for people to keep making a video. And you can crop it. You can also crop that video for your main feed, so it kind of doubles over.
Interesting. I learned stuff on this podcast.
Just teaching people the ways to build their media empire.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Did you listen to Teddy Pendergrass?
Teddy Pendergrass? Yes, I love Teddy Pendergrass.
Okay, all right. Just see.
That's
yes, and you got Eddie Murphy, Don Rickles. Yeah, okay.
Eddie Murphy. I got some
I used to have
Bruce
that
up there. I got a lot of Red Fox actually also too.
Yeah, I like Red Fox too.
2 Red Fox albums.
I used to have that George Carlin one right there. Over your
this one here?
Yeah.
Occupation Fool, yeah. Well, I'm trying to think. I think my favorite album out of all of these is the Stephen Wright album.
It's a good one.
Oh my God.
I've never seen what's his name? Right there. What's his name? Oh, Johnny Carson album.
Johnny Carson? Oh yeah, that's one I just found in a record store, and it's literally just like a compilation of like all of his top guests.
Oh,
it's just like it's a special 2-record set, and it's just like the names on here are nuts too. It's like Ed McMahon, Billie Holiday, Lenny Bruce, like Lucille Ball, Buddy Hackett, Jack Benny, Jerry Lewis, Sammy Davis, like Don Rickles.
Did you listen to it?
Yeah, I've listened to it. It's wild because like the way they communicated back then is just so different. Just like everybody talks like this, and it's like super, Really? Like you're like, what a time warp.
Yeah. I would imagine most of your albums would be like that.
Yeah. But I mean, there's some that are just like undeniable, like just like Mitch Hedberg, for example, is just like.
Which one is that?
This one's Mitch Hedberg. Do You Believe in Gosh?
I had the Grill. What's it called? What's his first album?
I Have the Power to Search.
I had it autographed by him.
No way.
Yeah, and I lost in a fire.
Oh no. I remember right when that happened as well. I remember being at the Underground. I'm trying to find the name of the album also.
I think it's Strategic.
No, that's his second one.
Strategic Grill. It was like it was when he was
Strategic Grill Locations. Yeah,
that's the one. And I had that autographed by him. Like lost in the fire.
Yeah, man. What happened? Like
it was weird because I was watching I just finished Nanette. And I'm like, I go to my kitchen, and there's like, so we have a window here, and the kitchen's in the back, right beside in the back of the kitchen. And I'm like, I see lights. I thought cops were in the backyard because we have a big like shared parking lot. So I thought there was cops in the backyard. So it's the lights are coming. Then I open the thing, and it's the whole side's on fire.
Oh,
and I'm like, we gotta get out of here. So I grabbed the cat and the dog and my wife, and we got out.
God damn. I just picture you running out with all of them in your arms.
Yeah, it was pretty much like that. We didn't have any leash. I didn't like think to grab anything. It's just like, we got to go.
Man. Yeah. I mean, in that moment, it's like, just get out. Like none of your stuff matters at that time. It's just your lives.
Well, and I really thought that like, oh, we'll be back in like tomorrow, or they'll deal with it. It's done. And like, no, that was it. It's like, I think I rolled with it better, but, yeah, I mean, you have a bit of what is it?
PTSD?
PTSD. There you go. Thank you. I have a bit of that. Yeah. But it's been a few years, so we're all good. Yeah.
Well, man, I'm happy to hear you're here with us and you're happy and healthy.
Yeah, we got out. That's the main thing.
Juno nominated.
Oh yes, yeah. That was a trip. Yeah.
Well, we skipped right over that. People check out your album.
I mean, it was done. Yeah, my album's on my website. So if you want to see that, listen to it, it's there. You can stream it. Oh yeah, that's at the red carpet ceremonies.
That's gotta feel good as a comic.
You know what? It was nice. It was nice to get nominated for that, because for me it was like, oh, it's the work, right? There's no like, I felt like there was no, what's the word I'm looking for? It felt legit in a way. Usually I'm like, I mean, I'm not brushing off, but that's nice. But this was like, oh yeah, this is nice. Yeah, and you know, I'm the type of person, like once you're nominated or you get something, it's finished, like it's done, it's already over. So you gotta move on to the next one.
You already made it.
It's already in the past. But I enjoyed this one for a bit, just so it's not often, it's not common, it's probably not gonna happen again. Let me enjoy.
Who knows? You might go on to win it 3 years in a row. We'll see.
Or get nominated 3 years in a row. Yeah. Lose 3 years in a row.
Either way you look at it, man, glass half full, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna skip off here and go eat some dinner. But man, thanks so much for
thanks for having me. This was fun.
Yeah, it was great catching up, and I'll send you this link whenever it's up.
Awesome. Take care.
You've been listening to The Johnny Rogers Show. New episodes air every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.